Hello, my name is Logan Martin and my performance is the title The Many Faces of 9/11. Hello, I am Osama bin Laden. I was born in 1957 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the 17th son of Muhammad bin Laden. After my father's death in 1967, I inherited about $200 to $300 million in U.S. currency. When we Arabians defeated the Soviet Union, I saw the defeat as a small step in a worldwide jihad or holy war. After the Gulf War, Saudi Arabia allowed U.S. troops on there in our soil. This makes me and thousands of other people that fought for our land enraged. Why? Why would the troops from the country that is the biggest supporter of Israel would dare nevertheless be allowed to enter holy Muslim land after the war was over? They had no right or place to invade and violate the sanctity and holiness of the sacred Muslim territory. They must and will be an enemy for all Muslims. For what I'm about to do to America is even more fueled when I join forces with leaders that supported terrorism and Saudi Arabia stripped my citizenship away. I'll tell you this much, America is going to pay. Good morning, Manhattan. I'm your local news reporter, Mark Parks. It's currently 8:46 Eastern Time, and today is going to be a very beautiful day. Before you go out and grab your coffee and go head out to work, a plane hit the North Tower. Breaking news that a plane has just hit the North World Trade Center tower. Stay tuned on West 22 for more information. Mark Parks reporting that the South Tower has just been hit. But I'm getting reports right now that President George H.W. Bush is being briefed at this time. Today, we have a national tragedy. 2 planes had crashed into both World Trade Center towers. This is an apparent terrorist attack on America. We will conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and find the people responsible for this cowardly act. Terrorism against America will not stand and will not be tolerated. May God bless America, and thank you. As President George H.W. Bush said, we will catch the people responsible for this. But right now, responsible for this. Breaking news that what seems to be a plane that is headed towards Washington, D.C. has crashed into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Right now, our news team is on the scene in New York City, and they found an eyewitness of the 9/11 attacks by the name of Kenneth LaPence. When the first plane hit, I saw a plume of thick gray smoke rising from the North Tower. About 20 minutes or so afterwards, I heard a loud roar above me and saw another plane slam into the South Tower. This made smoke go everywhere. The breeze was everywhere, and I mean it, like grit, dust, glass particles everywhere. And yeah, glass particles everywhere. And I thought I heard another roar coming, but really that was the South Tower collapsing. And shortly after the South Tower collapsed, the North Tower collapsed. And yeah, the smoke filled the streets everywhere. Well, thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate your cooperation. But before we get ahead of ourselves, who is behind this and who is responsible for this? Just recently, they found a man by the name of Osama bin Laden and his terrorist organization, Al-Qaeda. If you don't know, Al-Qaeda is a militant terrorist organization group organized in Iraq and led by Osama bin Laden. They represent themselves as an Islamic group based off religious aspects. But right now, our news team is on the scene in the White House as President George H.W. Bush addresses our nation. Good evening. Tonight, we were attacked by terrorists that took lives. Took our mothers, our fathers, our friends, and family. Our freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist attacks. Tonight, I ask for prayers for all those who grieve, for all those whose world's been torn apart. I pray that they be comforted by a greater power. Psalms 23 says, "Even though I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me." Thank you, and God bless. Breaking news that Flight 93 was more of a rogue act than a terrorist attack. After ongoing investigation, they have came to the conclusion that this was not an ordinary hijack. As a matter of fact, this is an act of bravery and courage. The passengers aboard Flight 93 knew they weren't going to survive and they weren't going to land, but they knew they had to do something. So they took it into their own hands and made a plan. Ready, set, go. They rushed the terrorists and beat them up. And then they rammed their way into the cockpit using a flight attendant's cart. When they got into the cockpit, they tried to fight it out for the controls, but sadly, they didn't gain the controls. Then the terrorists gave up and they went into a nosedive, plummeting thousands of feet through the air. 9/11, in conclusion, was both a triumph and tragedy. But For Al-Qaeda, it was a triumph, but in a different way. The attacks on 9/11 were devastating, debris falling down on innocent civilians, killing them on impact, burying them alive, or even splitting them in pieces. Approximately 2,974 people lost their lives due to 9/11. The impact and explosion killed everyone on board instantly and ignited 20,000 gallons full of jet fuel. The saddest part is that these attacks could have been prevented if there was TSA and Homeland Security Administration. 9/11 affected many Americans: mothers, sons, fathers, daughters, aunts, uncles, grandmas, and grandpas separated from their family. In some cases, they were never seen again. Same for the first responders. As people were seen running out for their lives, the first responders were seen running in the doors to help and save others. However, 9/11 was also a triumph for America too. If they estimated that if the first responders didn't show up, there would have been more than 20,000 casualties. Think how many people that is. And the affection for the 9/11 victims was flowing around too. People donated doggy beaks to the rescue dogs at Ground Zero, or where all the debris was. They also went as far as donating blood to the victims that needed it the most. It was reported that at some hospitals there was more volunteers than patients actually, and yeah. But in conclusion, it is confirmed that the attacks of 9/11 were both a triumph and tragedy. But how does the 19 terrorists, Al-Qaeda, and see 9/11 as? You'll find out on March 22. Mark Parks reporting to you that the 19 terrorists that hijacked 4 planes and they threw their 4 targets' motive was their ideology of martyrdom. In other words, when they hit the planes, they saw themselves as a sacrifice that is needed to achieve the goal of establishing and spreading the word of the glorious Allah. Even although they believe such harsh things, not all Muslims are this way. For example, Osama bin Laden is an extremist, and Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, is a fundamentalist in the Muslim culture. The terrorists and Al-Qaeda take the word of the Quran the wrong way and through violent struggle. Well, that's it for today. Good night from March 22.